So, I want to talk to you about the big, scary things as a flipper because it might be keeping you away from moving forward and jumping into this incredible business. And the big, scary things, I remember my mom used to say to me, this was before I bought a rental property. I was looking at a building, and they always say that's the last thing you should be looking at as a beginner. But of course, I didn't listen to that. And it was one of my best investments, actually. It was a little mixed use building. But my mom would say, oh my God, what are you going to do when the roof goes? What are you going to do when the furnace goes? And this building had a boiler, but nonetheless, that was her chant to me. And it might be the chant that's running through your head, right? It's like, what am I going to do if the roof goes or the boiler goes or the sewer backs up? And they might sound and feel like they're really big numbers if something happens. So I'm going to share with you about boilers and furnaces. A boiler's life, if it's taken care of, which is simple to take care of a boiler, is 25 to 40 years. They last a very, very long time. They're not that complicated, and they're fairly affordable to get maintained. I mean, you might spend $100 to $200 a year to get the boiler maintained. Now, if a boiler goes, this is what I would suggest that you do. If you call a retail supplier, a heating and cooling supplier, you're going to have sticker shock. It is going to be this big, scary number. Could be $8,000, could be $12,000 for a boiler. What I found is I called the boiler supplier, and they say, "Oh, hi, Miss Cleveland. Yes, a boiler. How big is the property?" And I tell them that boiler is $2,800. I'm like, okay. And about, with the right skilled person, how long does it take to remove a boiler and install a new one? And they said, well, because of the weight of it and the complexity, it usually takes about 6 hours for 2 people to install it. So you're smart, do the math. If you paid someone $40 an hour who was the craftsman and he had a helper for $20 an hour and they both worked 6 hours, and then you added the $2,800 to $3,500 to it, it's not $12,000. Now that's a boiler. Let me talk to you about a furnace, because I've gotten a range of pricing from $3,500 to $7,000 for a furnace. I can buy a high efficiency furnace for $875. That's, again, a supplier that supplies contractors a furnace. So my guys can go over and pick up, this is high efficiency. If it's not high efficiency, you can buy it for as little as $675. So $875, and it literally takes 3 hours usually to swap out furnaces. I'm not talking about new install and running all kinds of duct work and going up the walls and building chases. That's a different conversation. We're talking about upgrading and just swapping out an existing boiler or an existing furnace. So adding that up, we're somewhere around $1,200 to $1,800 all in to install a furnace versus $4,500 to $7,000. So that's where you have to get really good in the business. That's where I encourage my clients to do their due diligence and do their research. And I find contractors that moonlight. Those are some of the contractors that I work with that come in and do that kind of work. Like they're looking for work on the weekends or in the evening. They work full-time for a supplier that charges the high retail. You can't afford to hire the high retail guys when you're a flipper. So you've got to get really savvy. So it doesn't have to be big and scary. The same thing with roofs, and I'll talk about that in another video. I hope this has been helpful. Bye for now, and thanks so much for following me. And it doesn't have to be that scary.